Hi, so this is my reading response for chapters 5 and 6 of Cranford. I want to first apologize. I am sick, so if my voice cracks a little, just bear with me. So the first thing I wanted to mention, which relates more to chapter 6 than to chapter 5, is Elizabeth Gaskell's ability to switch tones in a manner that seems almost effortless. So in chapter 6 especially, it is also present in the previous installments, the shift from like deep emotion and sympathy to humor and wit is amazing. I mean, the tone shifts back and forth so flawlessly that you barely notice it. You can see Gaskell's effort to lighten the tone of very dark subjects such as death, and it is a truly impressive work of literary form. So now that I've discussed the tone, next I want to discuss my response to the imagery that is created in chapter 5. When Miss Maddie only allows one candle to be lit at a time, it creates kind of an ominous setting. And there is a reason for economic reasons that she's only lighting one candle at a time, but this is also Gaskell's way to set the imagery and to create that ominous kind of tone and whatnot. And this is perfect for her secret letter reading. I felt the intensity and emotion Miss Maddie was experiencing by reading her deceased parents' letters. Also, by burning the letters, we witness her letting go of the pain she's accumulated and endured through losing many of her loved ones. So that's Mrs. Jenkins, Holbrook, her parents, Peter, the list just goes on. So with the letter reading, I have noticed that there is a great deal of depth within the installments. And for whatever reason, I didn't really notice it as much until the letter reading, until it was kind of more brought up. So like the shifts in tone, it is easy to dismiss because of the light, almost satirical manner in which Gaskell presents death. Presents the death of her characters, right? So on the surface, this installment seems relatively carefree. But once you look under the tone, a world of pain and misery appears. I find Gaskell has created a piece of literary genius by being able to mask the misery through humor and wit. So as I read the installments, I became more and more amazed at what she has so flawlessly achieved, and that so many try to achieve the same thing but fail. Another thing I want to bring up from chapter 5 was on page 91, where Mary is watching the letters burn and inwardly reflects, watching each blaze up, die out, and rise away in faint, white, ghostly semblance. This observation, I believe, is a perfect analogy for how the Victorians perceived death. So you would be born, so i.e. blaze up, live your life hopefully to the fullest, and then die. So, but your soul would remain eternal and rise to heaven. So this observation that Mary experiences is, I think, Gaskell's way of shedding a positive light on the death that has occurred within the installments. Although the characters have ceased living, they have passed on to heaven. So, like I said, bringing light into something that is very negative. Again, this realization is easy to read over. I almost missed it myself, but with this observation, the death in the installments doesn't seem so entirely bleak, At least that is my opinion. So now finally, I want to discuss chapter 6. The first thing about chapter 6 that I noticed is that instead of referring to Mrs. Jenkins by her formal name, Miss Maddie calls her Deborah. I found this very interesting. When talking about Mrs. Jenkins' younger days, Miss Maddie employs the more informal name, Deborah. So I believe this changes Gaskell's way of keeping the narrative consistent. So Deborah wasn't referred to, as Mrs. Jenkins at that point in her life. So by keeping the narrative consistent, we automatically view her in a more informal and younger manner. I am again greatly impressed by Gaskell's writing. Next, I want to mention the unintentional sibling rivalry, which exists between Deborah and Peter. So, this sense of competition is something that I can relate to and have experienced. So, when my brother graduated from high school, he went straight to university, and like my parents, attended the U of A. My brother, he's 2 years older than me. So, my dad was very proud of him, and my brother quickly became, like Peter, my dad's prize. Sorry, not prize, pride. Whereas I took 2 years off school to work and travel. So when those 2 years passed, my brother decided he didn't like university, he didn't like the school setting, so he dropped out. And that is the same year that I enrolled. So we quickly noticed my dad's disappointment in my brother, but also the switch where my brother no longer was his pride and then I became his pride. So very similar to Peter, who had all these expectations for him. And then Deborah kind of took over those expectations and became her father's pride. So like Deborah, I basically took my brother's spot as my father's pride. My brother, like Peter, still holds some unexpressed animosity towards me for taking his light, although I do not judge him for that or for the choice he made. But it is apparent that, like Peter, my father had higher hopes for him. Anyway, my life aside, I wanted to discuss one last thing. Miss Maddie has had a remarkably tough life. She has lost all of her family and her lover. It is truly admirable, that she has remained so resilient. This installment has again shown me how strong Miss Maddie is and how her strength can be an inspiration. Anyway, so this one went a little bit longer. I just felt like I had a lot to say about these couple chapters. I promise the rest of them won't be as long. Anyway, thanks for listening. Bye.